Hi, my name's Jacqueline. Welcome. It's great that you chose to learn about Israeli literature. Let's start learning, shall we? Israel is known to be the Jewish Republic of Asia. It is part of the historic land of Palestine, the place that is believed to be the holy land and place where the Jewish and Christian faith began. Religion is a huge part of Hebrew literature. It made Israeli literature one of the oldest and richest literatures of the world. The religious book that Israeli literature is mostly based off has many names. It can be called the Bible or the Tanakh. The Bible possesses literary genres. It is not only unified through its divinity and wisdom. It is composed of two divisions, the Old Testament and the New Testament. One example of Israeli literature is the parable of the Good Samaritan. Check out what it is on Good Samaritan 1 and 2. See you!
guys, my name is Vanna and welcome to the Good Samaritan. Today we will be talking about some extra information about the parable of the Good Samaritan before we proceed with the video. We will first learn about the background of the story, its character, and the lesson you expected to learn after watching. Did you know that the Good Samaritan is one of the famous parables of Jesus? There are many children's books inspired and dedicated to this story. Even I remember owning a children's book about this story. This parable is based on Israel, the place where Jesus was at that time. It answers the question, who is your neighbor and what does a neighbor do to its fellow man? It gives us insight and knowledge as to what is righteous and what should be our attitude towards others. And if you like to read this story in the Bible, this is found in the New Testament, in Luke chapter 10, verse 25 to 37. In this story in the Bible, there are 7 characters, namely Jesus, the expert, the robman, the priest, the Levite, the innkeeper, and the Samaritan. Jesus is, of course, as we know, the Son of God. In this story, he is teaching and proclaiming the Word of God. This is also the same time when he tells the parable of the Good Samaritan. The man who questioned Jesus is the man who is expert of the law. He wanted to test him, but in the end, the man learned a valuable lesson. Now, for the characters of the parable itself, we have 5 characters. The robman is the first to be introduced. He is the man in need of help. The priest and the Levite are 2 of the other characters of the parable. The Samaritan, our main character, is a man with his donkey who was just passing by when he saw the robman. The innkeeper was a person who was tasked by the Samaritan to take care of the robman. Now, you are about to watch the video. After watching, you are expected to realize the following: that the parable talks about helping the ones in need, that the parable shows how to be a good member of the community, and that it also shows fighting the prejudices among your people. That's all, people. See you around!
Kids Faith TV.
The Parable of the Good Samaritan. On one occasion, an expert in the law stood up to test Jesus.
Teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?
He said to him,
What is written in the law? How do you read it?
and he answered,
Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself.
And Jesus said to him,
You have answered correctly. Do this and you will live.
but he wanted to justify himself, so he asked Jesus.
And who is my neighbor?
In reply, Jesus said,
A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho. He was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day, he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper.
Look after him, and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have.
Jesus looked into the lawyer and asked him,
Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers?
The expert in the law replied,
The one who had mercy on him.
Jesus told him,
Go and do likewise.
Before we continue the video, let me ask you 3 questions first. Number 1, what is Israel's literature famous for? Correct. Israelite literature is renowned for its religious texts. It is profound due to its spiritual aspects that made the Bible of the Tanakh the noblest monument of ancient literature. Okay, next question. What is the oldest and richest literature in the world? Impressive! It's the Hebrew literature. Last question. What message is conveyed in the parable of the Good Samaritan? Good point. The parable shows us to help the ones in need, even if it is your enemy, even if they think you are a terrible person. It doesn't justify you not giving a hand. Instead, change their view of you. The Samaritans are known to be an enemy of the Jews, but this narrative did not stop him from helping the poor robbed man. This also shows how to be a good community member to your neighbors.
Hi, I'm Marvy Grace G. Sawan, and welcome to Japanese Literature. The following podcast you are about to hear are all the beauty and elegance of the literature of one of the world's most progressive countries, Japan. Now, have you heard haiku and tanka? These words might sound familiar to you as you have encountered them before. Haiku and tanka are Japan's 2 forms of poetry. Haiku has 3 lines and 17 syllables with a pattern of 5-7-5, while tanka is a single line in a 31-syllable poem. Other than poems, drama is a favorite form of amusement in Japan. There are 3 types of play, like no play, kabuki, and juri or the puppet play. Murasaki Shikibu is a preeminent literature during the Heian period. Chikamatsu Manzaimon is a Japan's Shakespeare, and Jippensha Ikko is recognized as Japan's Mark Twain. Enough of the minor parts. Let's continue to the main event, the story. Learn and watch the podcast and video at Ava Promised Kept 1 and 2. See you!
Hey! Welcome to the first part of A Promise Kept. I'm Juliana Gayo and I will be equipping you with the things you need to know first before watching the video. The author of A Promise Kept is Patrick Lafcadio Hearn, or Lafcadio Hearn for short. His Japanese name is Koizumi Yakumo. Lafcadio is an international writer famous for writing Japanese legends and ghost stories. A Promise Kept. Lafcadio's work is a story set in Kato village in the province of Harima during spring. The story is about a man keeping his promise to his brother and friend. It shows the deep relationship of the two Japanese men's kinship. There are 6 characters in the story, with one character briefly mentioned. Akana Soyemon, the man who left to go to another village. Hasebe Samon, the man who waited for his brother to come home. Akana Tanji, the cousin of Soyemon. Lord Tsunehiza, the new ruler of Tonda Castle. The mother of Hasebe, a supporting character. And Lord Enya, the former ruler of Tonda Castle, briefly mentioned. After watching the video, you're about to see and learn that keeping a promise builds a relationship with other people and that it should take a lot of emotional power to dedicate to someone and handle a lot of responsibilities. Let me present to you A Promise Kept by Lafcadio Hearn.
Of a promise kept,
I shall return in the early autumn,
said Akana Soymon several hundred years ago, when bidding goodbye to his brother by adoption, young Hasebe Samu. The time was spring, and the place was the village of Kato in the province of Harima. Akana was an Izumo samurai, and he wanted to visit his birthplace. Hasebe said,
Your Izumo, the country of the 8th cloud rising, is very distant. Perhaps it will therefore be difficult for you to promise to return here upon any particular day. But if we were to know the exact day, we should feel happier. We could then prepare a feast of welcome, and we could watch at a getaway for your coming.
Why, as for that, I've been so much accustomed to travel that I can usually tell beforehand how long it will take me to reach a place, and I can safely promise you to be here upon a particular day. Suppose we can say the day of the festival Choyo?
That is the 9th day of the 9th month. Then the chrysanthemums will be in bloom, and we can go together to look at them. How pleasant. So, you promise to come back on the 9th day of the 9th month?
On the 9th day of the 9th month.
He repeated, smiling farewell. Then he strode away from the village of Kato in the province of Harima. And Hasebe Samon and the mother of Hasebe looked after him with tears in their eyes. Neither the sun nor the moon, says an old Japanese proverb, ever halt upon their journey. Swiftly the months went by, and the autumn came, the season of chrysanthemums. And early upon the morning of the 9th day of the 9th month, Hasebe prepared to welcome his adopted brother. He made ready a feast of good things, bought wine, decorated the guest room, and filled the vases of a clove with chrysanthemums of 2 colors. Then his mother, watching him, said,
The province of Izumo, my son, is more than 100 ri from this place, and the journey thence over the mountains is difficult and weary. And you cannot be sure that Akana will be able to come today. Would it not be better, before you take all this trouble, to wait for his coming?
Nay, mother, Akana promised to be here today. He could not break a promise. And if he were to see us beginning to make a preparation after his arrival, he would know that we had doubted his word, and we should be put to shame.
The day was beautiful, the sky without a cloud, and the air so pure that the world seemed to be 1,000 miles wider than usual. In the morning, many travelers passed through the village, some of them samurai, and Hasebe watched each as he came. More than once imagined that he saw Akana approaching. But the temple bell sounded the hour of midday, and Akana did not appear. Through the afternoon, also Hasebe watched and waited in vain. The sun set, and still there was no sign of Akana. Nevertheless, Hasebe remained at the gate, gazing down the road. Later, his mother went to him and said,
The mind of a man, my son, as our proverb declares, may change as quickly as the sky of autumn, but your chrysanthemum flowers will still be fresh tomorrow. Better now to sleep, and in the morning you can watch again for Akana if you wish.
Rest well, mother, but I still believe that he will come.
Then the mother went to her own room, and Hasebe lingered at the gate. The night was pure as the day had been. All the sky throbbed with stars, and the white river of heaven shimmered with unusual splendor. The village slept. The silence was broken only by the noise of a little brook, and by the far-away barking of peasants' dogs. Hasebe still waited until he saw the thin moon sink behind the neighboring hills. Then at last, he began to doubt and to fear. Just as he was about to re-enter the house, he perceived in the distance a tall man approaching, very lightly and quickly. And in the next morning, he recognized Akana.
Oh,
He sprang to meet him.
I have been waiting for you from the morning until now. So, you really did keep your promise after all. But you must be tired, poor brother. Come in, everything is ready for you.
He guided Akana to the place of honor in the guest room and hastened to trim the lights, which were burning low.
Mother felt a little tired this evening, and she has already gone to bed. But I shall awaken her presently.
Akana shook his head and made a little gesture of disapproval.
As you will, brother.
He set warm food and wine before the traveler. Akana did not touch the food or the wine, but remained motionless and silent for a short time. Then speaking in a whisper, as if fearful of awakening the mother, he said,
Now I must tell you how it happened that I came thus late. When I returned to Izumo, I found that the people had almost forgotten the kindness of our former ruler, the good Lord Enya, and were seeking the favor of the usurper Tsunehisa, who had possessed himself of the Tonda castle. But I had to visit my cousin, Akana Tanji, though He had accepted service under Tsinehisa and was living as a retainer within the castle grounds. He persuaded me to present myself before Tsinehisa. I yielded chiefly to observe the character of the new ruler, whose face I had never seen. He is a skilled soldier and of great courage, but he is cunning and cruel. I found it necessary to let him know that I could never enter his service. After I left his presence, he ordered my cousin to detain me, to keep me confined within the house. I protested that I had promised to return to Harima upon the 9th day of the 9th month, but I was refused permission to go. I then hoped to escape from the castle at night, but I was constantly watched, and until today I could find no way to fulfill my promise.
Until today,
he exclaimed Hasebe in a bewilderment.
the castle is more than 100 ri from here.
Yes, and no living man can travel on foot 100 ri in one day. But I felt that if I did not keep my promise, you could not think well of me. And I remembered the ancient proverb, Tamayoku ichinichi ni senri wo yuku. Fortunately, I had been allowed to keep my sword. Thus only I was able to come to you. Be good to our mother.
With these words, he stood up, and in the same instant disappeared. Then Hasebe knew that Akana had killed himself to fulfill the promise. At earliest dawn, Hasebe summoned set out for the castle Tonda in the province of Izumo. Reaching Matsu, he there learned that on the night of the 9th day of the 9th month, Akana Soimon had performed harakiri in the house of Akana Tanji, in the grounds of the castle. Then Hasebe went to the house of Akana Tanji and reapproached Akana Tanji for the treachery done, and slew him in the midst of his family and escaped without hurt. And when the Lord Tsunehisa had heard the story, he gave commands that Hasebe should not be pursued, for although an unscrupulous and cruel man himself, the Lord Tsunehisa could respect the love of truth in others, and could admire the friendship and the courage of the Hasebe Sama.
You're almost finished with Japanese literature. Let me test your knowledge and memory skills for a minute, okay? Number 1. What is the difference between haiku and tanka? The first difference between haiku and tanka is the syllable count. Haiku has 3 lines and 17 syllables, while tanka is a single-lined 31-syllable poem. Number 2. Who is Japan's Shakespeare? Correct! Chikamatsu Monzaimon. Number 3. What is Lafcadio Hearn known for? Nice! Lafcadio Hearn is known for his works on Japanese legend and ghost stories. Number 4. What is the moral lesson of a promise kept? You're right. Of a promise kept showed how promises are meant to be held and not broken. It shows how you should trust and fulfill what you say. It also shows us kinship and friendship, something that everyone must have on to and take care of. You've been a fantastic learner. Congratulations on finishing the Japanese literature. If you ever need to come back, our playlist is right here on Spotify. Thank you again so much. Sayonara.
Israeli and Japanese literature. Geographically far, but in literature, similar. They both give us moral lessons that we can keep and advices that we can share. The parable of the Good Samaritan taught me to be kind to others and to give a hand whenever someone needs it. It doesn't matter if a person is an enemy or a foe. Through this story, I also realized that
Even the one you call an enemy can be your friend. Of a Promise Kept made me feel mixed emotions. I was sad when Akana had to leave, anxious when he didn't come home, elated when he did, and miserable after hearing his story. But one thing I put to mind is his eagerness to fulfill his promise to Hasebe to come back on the 9th day of the 9th month. I also admire Hasebe's trust to Akana, even though his mother low-key told him to give up. It's been an incredible experience to talk about Israeli and Japanese literature to you. Gaining knowledge from different parts of the world is magnificent, especially when you realize that all the things that you have learned and all the advices that you have taken can be used in your everyday life wherever you are in the world. Once again, thank you so much for watching, listening, and being with us. See you!